but I have been doing a lot of thinking about what makes how moral persuasion really works, and especially the role that reason plays and the role it doesn't play, and looking at a lot of work in the social sciences, come to the conclusion that reason or rational argument is a lot less effective in changing people's mind than philosophers imagine, than I imagined. And I just want to go through a couple reasons why that is. The first reason is that reason is sort of a double agent. Yeah, we use it sometimes as a dispassionate judge to try to figure out what the best course of action is, or the most morally correct course of action is. But we also use it, and we do this a lot, we use it to justify what we already believe post hoc. We're really good at post hoc rationalization. We're really good at finding reasons to justify what we want to believe. So, Singer might offer great arguments, reasons to be a vegetarian, but he can't be there when you're coming up with your own reasons why it's okay for you to eat that steak. Second problem with reason or rational argument is that it's abstract. It relies on general principles, general ethical principles. And so it's impersonal. And we're not motivated by general principles. We're not motivated by abstractions. And if you think about it, this makes sense. Why did moral norms evolve in our species in the first place? It evolved to get us, to motivate us to cooperate in real life situations, to take care of our relatives, to be loyal to our friends, to punish people who try to harm them, and to punish people who violate moral norms within the community. All of this in real life situations, right? And the mechanisms that motivate behavior of this kind are the emotions. Emotions like empathy, a sense of shame, a sense of honor, moral outrage, moral indignation. These are the emotions that do that work, and they're triggered by real-life situations. The closer, the more familiar, the more we feel it, the more we're going to act. So that's a real problem with rational argument and general principles. And Singer, although he's been doing a lot of research now in psychology and is trying to adjust his views to this, but he's always taken a very different approach. He leads off his book, Animal Liberation, by saying that what motivated him to get so involved in the animal welfare movement is not that he loves animals. He says, I'm not really that interested in animals. He just wants to put a stop to the suffering of sentient beings in general. Now, I believe him. I think he's sincere, but I think that's exceedingly rare. And in fact, he himself once said that what made animal liberation so profoundly influential was not, in the end, his elegant utilitarian arguments that he gives in that book, but instead the vivid descriptions of what goes on in factory farms and in laboratories. And importantly, the pictures in the center of the book. You read those descriptions, you see those pictures, and you say, oh my God, this is awful, this is terrible, this has got to stop. Our sense of shame, our sense of outrage is triggered by those things. And this is why factory farms now in America and across the world do their best to make it so that nobody photographs or videotapes what goes on there. Because when you see these pigs, they're just as intelligent as dogs or more, and just as social, and they're confined for their whole lives in these narrow cages. well, that's when your empathy is triggered. That's when you say, I've got to stop. Not suffering in general, unjustified suffering of sentient beings in general, but this, we've got to stop this. And that's why they don't want you to see it. But it's not because you're going to learn any new facts, right? We all know in the back of our minds that it's not pretty what goes on in laboratories and in factory farms. But when you see these videos or you read an especially vivid description, you start to appreciate those facts in new and significant ways. Now, it's true that our emotions can be manipulated, and this is why philosophers since Plato have distrusted our emotions. Plato saw our emotions as distortions of our moral judgment, and he thought reason informed our moral judgment. And that's absolutely true. Emotions can be manipulated. Our sense of disgust, for example, is often used to get us to hate other people or to withhold rights and privileges for them. But where I think Plato and his followers were wrong, or at least they didn't emphasize enough how much emotion can inform our moral judgments as well.